In this video, we're going to cover some of the small mods that I'm using in my current campaign, and they are some of my absolute favorite. We won't be covering any major overhaul mods, those will be in the coming videos. Let's jump right into it, starting with Tutleage. This is the only mod on the list that needs to be added from the Steam Workshop. Essentially, this mod looks at everybody in your party, your family, and in the current town that you're in, finds the highest level for each skill, and then gives everybody else in the party a small trickle of XP. To demonstrate it, I'm going to show you a small clip from a current campaign that I'm running where we have a full party of 25 companions. Now looking here, medicine, crossbow, two-handed, crossbow, polearm, engineering, riding. Literally every skill gets trickled down to everybody else, and with enough XP they will gain levels from it. So for example, our main character has 322 one-handed, which is the highest out of anybody in the party. XP is granted at 10 XP per 100 levels. So essentially this character is contributing 32 XP to everybody else in the party. One side note, it doesn't just add skill XP, it also adds XP for the main character, so it will help your companions level up, which is one of my biggest gripes in the base game, because companions take forever to level up. I highly recommend Tutleage, it's a great mod. Up next on the list is realistic weather. This mod adds a chance of rain, fog, or dust storms to different biomes in the game, and each event has different effects on the units on the battlefield, from slowing their movement speed, increasing their morale damage, and even having an effect on their accuracy. For example, in this case we hit heavy rain, which slows our movement speed, decreases the accuracy of anybody throwing ranged weapons like these idiots throwing rocks at us, and also increases the morale damage taken when people get killed. Over here we spawn in the steppes near a river, and you could see a heavy fog, which doesn't necessarily do a ton. I believe the base mod reduces accuracy, but it also decreases your visibility significantly. But all these things can be adjusted to your liking. And of course we get the sandstorm in the desert, which looks absolutely amazing. The sound is really good too. And again, these idiots can't hit anything in the sandstorm. And the next mod on the list is EquipBestItem. This mod isn't necessarily essential, but if you're using a lot of companions, it can really save you a ton of time and headache. So for example, in this case, we've got a long list. We've got 25 people on here. Now going through and figuring out which one is the best for everybody to equip can be a real chore. Let's just show you an example. Let's say after battle, we just got a ton of really high-end gear, and we want to figure out who's got what. You would have to go in one by one and manually do it. In this case, you do get a pop-up saying that there is an upgrade available. Or you can click this button, it'll upgrade everything for that specific character. But let's say, again, you have 25 people, do you want to go through 25 screens? No, you don't. So we click this button, and it upgrades everybody in the party. And if you look right here, it even gives you a chat pop-up telling you exactly who got what type of armor they got switched out. It even works for weapons as well, though in this case I have most everybody's weapons locked. Which brings me to my next point. You can set filters, you can lock things. One thing I kept running into frequently is that it would switch out certain types of throwing weapons. I would get an item with a modifier that would give me a larger stack, and it kept switching it out for something with 2 stacks. So I would go from 7 throwing weapons to 2. You can actually change that and set it so that you have to have a certain amount of stack size before it gets swapped out. So the filters are really good. The locking mechanism is really good. Again, very, very good mod. Highly recommend if you're going to be using a lot of companions. If it's just your main character and maybe 1 or 2 people in your party, not really that big of a deal, but it'll still save you a little bit of time. And moving on, we're going to cover UnlimitedCAP next. This mod does 2 different things. You can adjust your companion limit to be different from what the base game is, and also your party size. So looking right here, we adjusted our companion limit up to 100. The reason I did this is because I wanted to do a companion heavy campaign, and in the base game, you're limited to 3 at clan tier 0, and the absolute max you can get is 11 with all the right perks, and clan tier 6, which is not enough for what I was looking to do. So you can adjust this all the way up to 500, which I wouldn't recommend. My previous campaign, I had up to 88 companions, and it was a lot of work to manage them. You can also have the adjustment be progressive instead of definite. Progressive means each level you'll add a certain amount to your current level. So if you still want to balance it so that maybe you, instead of getting 1 per clan tier, you can actually have it so that it gives you 2 or 3 per clan tier. So that at the end, maybe you end up with 30 instead of 11 at the max. Likewise, you can adjust your party size. I don't really mess with this, but again, if you want to do that, that's fine. Same thing, you can have it scaled differently with each clan tier that you get. By default, every clan tier adds 25 to your party size, so you can increase that up to whatever you want. And looking in here, we can see 24 companions, and I've got a full list of them. It's a lot of fun to do a campaign like this. Up next, let's cover Better Smithing Continued. I consider this mod absolutely essential if you plan on doing any amount of smithing in your campaigns, and I'll tell you why. The quality of life improvements in this are astounding. There's nothing changed to the balance of game. This is strictly quality of life. Looking down here, we can see all the pertinent perks for this specific character based on what tab we're on. So right now we're on Forged. We can see that we have Legendary, Master, Experienced Smith, Sharpened Edge, and Curious Smith. If we go to the Smelting tab, it switches these perks, Practical Smelter and Curious Smelter. So when you have a whole host of people helping you, you don't have to go to their specific character just to look and see which one was which, or add name tags to help you identify them. Everything's here for you. Same thing on the Refining tab. And while that's nice and dandy, that's not even an important part of this mod. One of my favorites, and this is a big headache for me in the past, is there's a whole catalog that you can save for each weapon that you want to craft. In this case, we got Valhalla's Guide. This is a very heavy-handed, one-handed mace that we're going to be using in our current campaign. And you can see in the save designs, you can make quite a few of these. I only have one because that's all I wanted to make. But you can edit it, you can change the names, and each time you forge, you don't get that stupid pop-up. It just makes it. If you want to change the name for each one, you can do that. You just go into the edit design, change the name. It's very, very easy to use. You can also craft 5 at a time. Right now I'm holding control. I just made 5 right now. Instead of having to go through and cycle, it's way easier to use. And each weapon has its own save catalog. So for example, I go to the two-handed mace, it's different. I don't see the one-handed here. It's not all muddied. I go exactly where I want. I save the type of weapon I want to make. So let's say I want to make a weapon that sells for a ton of money, and then I want to have a couple that I want to use, maybe one on horseback, one on foot. I can do that, and I can do it easily. However, the part of the mod that I feel like should absolutely be in the base game, and I have no clue why it hasn't been done yet, is the bulk refining, crafting, smelting, all of that. So looking right here, normally in the base game, I would have to click one time each time I wanted to do this. And if you've ever done bulk smithing, you'll know how much of a pain in the neck this is and how much it ruins your mouse. Right now, if I hold control, you see down here it says refine 5. You can do 5 at a time. If I hold shift, it does 100 at a time. And if I do control shift, it does 200 at a time. These are all customizable. I set these. I believe the default is 5, 50, and 100 or something like that. I set these up so that I could smelt gigantic stacks all at once. So let's go through and see how much hardwood we can turn into charcoal in a short amount of time. And just like that, we're literally going through hundreds of hardwood into charcoal at the click of a button. One of the worst parts was going up the refining chain, going from wrought iron, crude iron, iron, etc., all the way up to the higher crafting materials. Now it's done in a single click. It is so easy to do. It actually makes smithing enjoyable. It reminds me of the days when I first started the game and smithing was actually fun. So coming into the mod options, you can see right here, you can adjust the control refine, shift refine, and control shift refine. You can do the exact same thing for smelting, crafting, and you can adjust crafting stamina if you want to do that. You can also add recovery rate outside of towns, so you don't have to be in town to recover if you want to adjust that. I left all this at default. The only thing I'm using this for in my current campaign is just to bulk smelt, refine, and craft. However, there are some things that don't really make sense in the game, and you can adjust it here. This is an absolute must if you're going to do any kind of smithing whatsoever. Another one of my favorite mods is a very small one. In the base game, you have 3 speeds. You have a pause, you have a 1x speed, and you have a 4x speed. However, with the mod Better Time, it adds a 4th speed, extra fast forward, but more importantly, you can adjust how fast each one goes. Again, the base game fast forward is 4x. I have the extra fast forward as 10x. And control space, you can even add a 5th one if you want to do something really fast. So for example, if you're trying to travel across the map, if you're trying to wait to regain stamina from crafting, you can adjust this so that it goes very fast. A really handy mod, just makes the game feel so much smoother. You're not wasting as much time grinding and running around the map. And now we're moving on to the last 2 mods, which I personally don't go without no matter what campaign I'm running. The first is character reload. It adds these buttons up here when you go to the encyclopedia, allowing you to customize anybody on the map, not just your own character. So if you go to appearance, we can edit however we want. And in this case, we've got Galadriel herself, which is going to be in a video coming up soon. And as I mentioned, more importantly, you can adjust anybody on the map. So let's say we want to make Durthert very old, make him look a little bit derpy, we can do that. So now his personality matches his looks. Coming back into here, we can change names at any point in time, not just for ourselves, but everybody on the map. I use this all the time when I'm setting up custom campaigns. But here's where the real fun begins. In the Edit Hero tab, you can adjust all sorts of skill levels, perks. You can choose both perks instead of just choosing one. You can adjust attribute points. You can adjust people's traits, not just for you, but again, anybody on the map, your companions, your family members, everybody. Now, just a side note, you can only go up to 300 in the base game. I went through and used the console commands to get it up to this level. And again, this is going to be a follow-up video coming up soon. Before I forget, you can also change the culture. And one final note, if you're tired of having kids that take 18 years to get older, you can either click this button to have them grow up, or you can edit their appearance and just make sure their age is above 18, and then you'll be able to use them at that point. Really, really cool mod. I can't remember the last time I had a campaign where I didn't use it. And for the final mod on the list, the RTS Camera. This mod has a ton of functionality, some of which I don't really use, but we're going to go over everything anyways. One of my favorite options is the slow motion factor, which doesn't exactly do what it says. You can slow down the game. So if we move this slider all the way down and then we turn it on, notice that everything moves very slowly. So it could help you out in the heat of battle if you need extra time. However, I like to use the slider all the way to the right, making it 3x, which helps speed up in battle time because sometimes it takes forever for the two lines to meet, or if you're traveling into a town, you want to get to a gang fight, this helps speed that up. You can also move into a top-down view, which you can use just to scout, or if you're recording, you can get some nice cinematic shots. And if you so choose, you can even command your troops from here. Top down. I've done this in some of my guides, especially the tactics guides. And again, you can speed up the game because sometimes it really does take forever for the two lines to meet, and it's just a waste of time. Alright, so here we go. Our lines are finally getting closer. Let's go ahead and command these guys. Let's draw the line out a little bit longer. We're going to issue the shield wall, and we're going to get charged from the side. So at this point, we probably should issue the charge command so they can turn around and start attacking people. You can do all this, like I said, with the RTS Camera mod. Now, one cool feature is you can pause the game, allowing you to move around. You could normally do this with the free camera mode. However, this is at the press of a button. You don't have to hit escape, and then you can unpause. Really get into some of that juicy action like this guy, who literally got his head knocked out of his headgear. Holy crap, he got hit hard. Another quick function is disabling the HUD. So if you don't like having a HUD and you want to get a real nice screenshot, you can do that with a click of a button. Also, you can control anybody on the battlefield, both yours or the enemies. In this case, let's take control of this low tier guy. I'm going to unpause. Now we've got a tiny axe. We're a tier 1 garbage troop. Let's get into action. So, these guys are terrible. They're probably going to get slaughtered, but you know, if your main character goes down and you want to take control of a companion, you can use this to help them farm. You can use it to help win a battle, however you choose to use it. Another nice feature, especially if you're running tests or you're trying to get a nice cinematic shot, you can switch sides. So now we're in control of the enemy side. So we're going to retreat the archers, the shield wall, and we're going to have both of the cavalry leave the map. Let's go ahead and unpause. And just like that, everybody's going to retreat. And again, this isn't something I would recommend using in a normal battle, but if you want to try and set up some tests, it's very useful. You can also turn everybody on the map invulnerable, which again is nice if you're trying to get some recordings, because usually people die very quickly. And with that, let's jump back to our main character, let this battle finish out. So thank you so much for watching. We're going to go punch our way through these guys, and I'll see you on the next video.